Killing Sacred Cows, and David is going to be our discussion leader today, and we are going over the intro and myth 1. David, you may take it away.
Absolutely. So just jumping in. So killing sacred cows. So essentially sacred cows at the beginning of the book, he describes in the financial world, a sacred cow basically is a myth and a tradition that distorts our money. And they've kind of really just been there for a while. So he really kind of paints that picture to start off with in the introduction. Are there any sacred cows that maybe he doesn't really mention, or even anything that he mentions in here that you guys maybe already know is a financial cow, or are starting to think maybe might be one that you originally believed?
Yes,
Well,
all things are. Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead, babe.
You go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say something about the only constant in the constant is death and taxes. But after all these books we're reading, I don't think taxes are a constant or a guaranteed. I think there's something that is not a true statement anymore.
Right, exactly. Laura?
Well, I was going to say similar as the taxes. It's like, at first you're raised to think that, oh, rich people screw the government out of taxes and rich people are just bad. And, taxes if you're scamming the government if you're not paying taxes. You're actually acting like a puppet if you're not paying taxes. It's quite the opposite.
Yes. Natalie?
Yeah, I think all of our beliefs this summer have been challenged with these books that we keep on reading, and things that we thought you were just stuck with. It's no longer that. And I was, this whole book actually, I was afraid that we were reading another finance book, and I'm like, this is gonna be frustrating. But I listened to the whole introduction, the whole both new intro parts and the first myth, and it was kind of a really good perspective of how he presented everything. And so I loved what he said too he said something like, if just the rich people know what they're doing and you continue to follow the mass of people that continue to, keep on going left, even though, there's a small group going right and they're freaking nailing it. And so it's been very inspiring so far, this book.
Right. So thank you. One thing that I saw, one of the quotes in here that I really liked from David Hawkins, enslavement by illusion is comfortable. It is the liberation by the truth that people fear. And it's like, I feel like a lot of these myths have become comfortable. Because for me, a lot of the myths really come from like family, they come from people you trust, they come from large institutions. And so I guess after a while, it all just becomes comfortable. So let's see. Is there anything that you guys are maybe kind of excited about or excited to kind of read about after kind of listening through the introduction?
Well, I liked chapter 1 and I really liked where he was started. So I think I'm excited just to kind of see exactly where he goes, because he starts talking about abundance. And I think that was like the perfect place to start, because a lot of us feel like, I think that's probably the biggest myth is we live in a life of, minimal and things aren't abundant. And it actually is. I mean, when we need a breath, we take it. I don't understand why when we need $1, we don't go find that as well.
Right.
And so I'm excited to see how he kind of lays it all out and explains it all, just because I felt like the first chapter was a really good spot to get started with kind of breaking those thought processes that we all are plagued with.
Right. Anything to add, Natalie, Craig?
Yeah, I agree. There was I clipped it in the audio, but one thing he said was that when you get one person, which was really inspiring, that one person that's doing really well can bring up a whole lot of other people and make them do really well together, and it becomes like a community effort, and not I have to take away from Laura because and then now she's out. It's we'll be successful together kind of initiative. And And I'm excited for
Right.
that.
Right.
Also the point of, one person alone is really intelligent, can do a lot of great things, but getting 5 or 10 of those people in the same room, imagine what they can come up with. And the other thing sorry to keep on rambling, but kind of like this book. The other thing he said was about oil. Like before we had automation, we had no good use for oil. And now we found a good use for oil. And now we're, don't have enough of it. But it's like, what other natural resource out there could we utilize to become the next oil that will replace everything else? And so it's just, you always got to keep on developing and coming up with new ideas and doing new things.
Right. Right. So one thing that I think he does pretty well in this is he talks about how a lot, like how can I do this? How can I obtain these things? How can I make this happen? As opposed to, I'm not gonna lie, I still hear a lot can't. I hear a lot of people say can't. And it's just like, I feel like that in itself kind of almost supports the myth behind, like, where the myth comes from of the scarcity. You just hear a lot of people saying I can't do it, and it's like as soon as you start saying can, it's like, okay, well, if you can't do this, then where are you going to get it from? You got to get it from somebody, and then I think that's where that win-lose comes from. What are you guys' thoughts on why we have, or I guess why this is a sacred cow?
Well, I like the idea of.
Oh, go ahead.
Go
I
ahead,
was
Craig.
gonna say, I mean, as far as I like that his take on that. There's just because there's maybe a quote unquote finite of something does not mean that you can't do anything. Right? It's just a matter of maybe, I guess, opportunity available, kind of what Natalie was referencing. Okay, well, sure, we don't have enough oil, but great. Well, oil just runs stuff. So it's not that the oil is the end all be all. It's the running is the end all be all. So how do we make things run in a different way that open up more opportunity for additional revenue to be traded, if you will, using his phrase, kind of like, okay, well, what has more value? Trading this for that. Okay, well, it's the book money example, right? Where okay, I'll pay $20 for a book. Well, I'll sell you a book for $20, right? Depending on who you're asking, depending on who the value is. Someone would rather have the $20 than the book. Other people would rather have the book than the $20, right? Some people would anyway, something entirely differently than I don't want 20 or a book, but I want, a gallon of oil type situation. So it's just a matter of kind of twisting it around and, never being, well, I can't do that. No, I can't make that much money. The money's not there. No, it is there. You just got to figure out how to get it to your pocket by offering what the world may or may not be looking for. Or
right.
even if they don't know they're looking for it, don't tell them they're looking for it. And then, great, all of a sudden now money's flowing into your pocket.
Right.
What was interesting too is he kept on, like, he gave the example of when his wife and him were married and they were going to have kids once they had so much money in the bank, and he was basically pinching pennies to become, a millionaire. And he stated like he'll never get it there. But it was his change of perspective when, I forget the lady's name that he met with, and she said, well, how is that going for you? Are you happy? Is your wife happy that she's still wearing college clothes? And it kind of clicked in him that you have to, you could have all the money in the world and still be unhappy. And to hear from him that, you got to be happy with what you have and realize that, and your whole perspective of life might change. Like, you always dream that, oh, once I hit $1 million, I'll be happy. But it's like, why can't you be happy now? And that was kind of a good caliber too for myself of, I know where I'm at now financially. Am I happy there? And it felt good to, feel very content with lifestyle and where we're at, and could always do better, but also very happy with where we're at now.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely like that phrase. You'll never save yourself to wealth. It's like, oh, save. No. invest, spend. That's how you get wealthy. You'll never save to wealth. I thought that was a really interesting take on it, because everybody, oh, you need to save money. Maybe not.
Yeah, just enjoy life. Like, what if you're gone tomorrow? You can be happy you saved all that money.
So one thing he talks about towards the end of the first chapter is kind of the destructive nature of scarcity thinking. And so kind of after reading this, one of the thoughts that I kind of put together is I feel like one of the things that's being destroyed through scarcity thinking is innovation and creativity. Because if you think about it, so for instance, you guys kind of talked about the example. Oil, before we had the automobile, we had no real use for it. But then when that or that innovation came across, now we have an actual use for it. Now we're running out of it, and the scarcity mindset, the easy thing to think, oh, we're running out of oil, I guess that's the end of cars, you know. Whereas we still have more people that are innovating, like, oh, well, we've got clean energy, we've got electric cars, we've got all these different things. And it's those people saying, how do we continue? So I just feel like that destructive nature does, like, it kind of destroys a bunch of different things. Is there anything outside of innovation you think it kind of is also destructive towards?
So I kind of come from manufacturing. And so when companies go full automation, they do lose a lot of jobs by doing that. And you don't need as many people to run those machines as you used to. And so I kind of see automation being a destruction of labor. But, hopefully theoretically those people could be put to bigger and better jobs and grow. But sometimes people don't want that. They want to keep on putting bolts on nuts, and that's it.
But that's exactly what I was just about to say, Natalie, is I think that, it can be a little destructive, right? Because people may be out of jobs, but at that point, my favorite quote, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change, right? Like if you're out of a job because a machine took it over, well, that gives you a chance to grow and get better. And, you read these books and you hear how easy it is, right? It's just a shift in mindset. Doesn't mean you don't have to work. I'm not saying it's physically hard, I think, because you have to put in the hours, but it's crazy to me how many people refuse to change and refuse to forward think and refuse to grow. I've got a client who bought a house, and because her son's on medication, she's got a bigger bill every month. And she actually told me that they strategically stay poor so that they can stay on welfare. And I thought to myself, how sad. Like me, I'm thinking, okay, well, here's what I got to make. How do I triple, quadruple, or whatever, make more than that to where coming off welfare doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's my mindset because I did it. I was on welfare. And I remember just I don't want to be here forever feeling. And so, I think looking at it from that perspective, and we pass those things down to our kids, whatever our perspectives are. You, to your point earlier, David, you live in your environment that you're raised in, and you become comfortable and complacent. And I don't even think you realize that what you're doing is wrong, because in this book, he talks about, we know what we know what we think we know, we don't know what we think we know, and then we don't know what we don't know. And I think there's so much in that bucket of we don't know what we don't know, that changing these mindsets it's hard. And then it takes 66 days to create that habit. So if your mindset is one way about money or one way about abundance, you've got to practice something really hard for 66 days to even change that.
Right. Exactly.
It's not hard, but it takes effort, and I think a lot of people refuse to put in the effort, but it's not hard.
Right.
So reading through it, did you think too, like, how would my mom react to this? How would my dad react to this? How would my daughter react to this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This whole book, I kind of think that same thing. I actually am still trying to get a lot of family members to read it, just because I know some of them are similar to me, and they're going to read through it and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's a myth. So I don't know, I'm kind of excited for them to read it too. One more thing I wanted to talk about really quick. What did you guys think about the cash in the coffee can example I was talking about? So I think it was an older couple, so like his great aunt and her husband, And so, you know, she had just a lot of money sitting around. Like the grandfather tried to convince her to kind of do something useful with it, which didn't really turn out the way she wanted. And then next thing you know, I think she ended up cashing out and putting it all in her match hands. What do you two guys think of that? Do you guys have any family members that are kind of like, if you were to do that, they'd probably turn around and do the exact same thing?
I think so. Especially thinking of my mom's family. They're big Roman Catholic family, lots of kids, and grandparents pinch pennies and probably had money hidden all over the house, and they didn't live the lifestyle that they probably should have, that they could have afforded, but they tried to keep it so minimalist and would rather see the money in a can than enjoying their nicer dinner or something.
Right.
Die that way too. Just scary.
Well, it's just crazy to me how when you come from scarcity like that, you have nothing. So opening your hand and letting that money flow out freely and investing it and spending it and making it work for you is so life-changing.
Right. Right. And I think another thing about this story that I find interesting is another nuance to this is, so Laura, to your point, you know, they've kind of come from a life of scarcity. Well, when people get to a certain age, they're kind of stuck in their ways and they're not really going to change. So sometimes I feel like, you know, I have a couple of family members where I kind of feel like this, and it's just like, you know, I'm always curious how to even approach that, because it's like, you know, the mindset has to change, but they've lived in that mindset for so long, you know. So just curious if anybody else. What about you, Craig?
In regards to
just having like family members that have been like so kind of enveloped in a life of scarcity, and so by the time they get to, you know, maybe 60, 70, 80, you know, it's almost like it's a lost cause.
Well, I don't know so much about that, but I mean, they're definitely, you know, I guess my parents, you know, they definitely have a certain mindset and a certain path of this is the way it has to get done within, I would say, a scarcity mindset. There's only so much money being made. You got to retire. You got to do this. You got to do that. Right. This is the path to do it.
Right.
And so there's definitely that mentality. I don't know if it comes from a Great Depression generation, if you will.
Right.
Obviously, my grandparents will, you know, live through it, so it definitely affected them in the hoarding and you know, and that stuff, because there was a time when there really wasn't, you know, scarcity. That's to the point, you know.
Cool. So that was the introduction to Myth 1. I hope that kind of got you guys excited about the book going forward. So the next read, I'm looking at Myth 2 and Myth 3. I believe both of those total is about 2 hours. And so those are going to be, you're in it for the long haul, and it's all about the numbers. So I'm excited to kind of talk through those chapters with you guys next week. Any other closing thoughts, questions, anything you want to add, anything maybe you like, any notes?
Yeah, I definitely like this author.
Awesome. Good.
I like his backstory, his energy.
Good.
Yes. Yes, I do too. I'm excited. I'm excited to dive into every myth, because I feel like even if I know it, like I know the scarcity rule, it's always good to hear it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited about thoughts for a few of these chapters coming up, so I can't tell you how excited I am right now.
Sounds awesome. Good.
Did anybody hear what I said?
Nope.
I heard a lot of it.
Apparently somebody started phone calling in and I had mute or I had to cancel, ignore, and apparently it just totally took and muted me everything. And anyway, sorry. So I had a great answer though. You would have really liked it.
Awesome. Craig, we just talked through. So Myth 3 and Myth 4 is going to be next.
2.
What about 2?
2 and Myth 3 are next. Once you read through those that should probably be about 2 hours or just under. And then we will talk through those on the next one.
Sounds good.
Awesome, guys.